This episode is proudly supported by OpenTable.
Nearly 1/3 of diners are booking same day. So they're making those decisions on the spot. And 10% are making their bookings within just a few hours. And so it's why it's so important to have booking software like OpenTable, which allows your diners to discover you. And so when restaurants are on platforms like OpenTable, they're much more likely to be discovered. We help diners to connect to restaurants. Ultimately, having technology, using technology, helps you to reattach to those diners.
Experience the power of OpenTable. For an exclusive offer, visit restaurant.opentable.com.au/DITW.
I'd like to acknowledge Australia's First Nation people as the traditional custodians of the land, and for this episode in particular, the Wongal and Jadigal people. I pay my respects to their elders past and present.
I think all of these opportunities do come due to hard work and persistence and relationships and really allowing yourself to be a sponge and to learn as you go. And sometimes you make the wrong decisions, but you have to allow yourself to do that to grow.
This is the Over the Glass podcast. I'm Shanteh Wale. David Murphy, or Dave Murph, is a name you'll hear around the traps of Sydney's dining scene. He's one of Sydney's original wine professionals, and there isn't much that Murph hasn't had a hand in. Lately, David co-founded Lyre's non-alcoholic spirit brand, while still skating around the floor of One Penny Red, his restaurant in Summerhill. Hi, Dave. Thanks for joining me.
Shanteh, what a pleasure. Thanks for having me. Thanks.
So lovely to have you on. David, the only thing more impressive than your list of experience in hospitality is your partner, Nina's. Do you agree with the quote that behind every good man is a great woman?
Absolutely, for the record, yes, 100%, yeah.
I'm hoping at one time I can get her on there because she has a list of credentials that, frankly, they sound quite made up.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. We've got I don't know, there must be a bucket list at home or something that we're trying to beat each other with, I'm not sure, but no, it's pretty good.
Power couple, awesome. Well, let's have a quick chat about where you kind of got your start. You cut your teeth in hotels before opening some of Sydney's greatest night spots. Can you touch on how you got your start in hospitality and then kind of how you made your way into beverages?
Yeah, sure. It's I'm sort of celebrating my 30th anniversary in hospitality this year, which is a bit daunting. I know that when I first started, I was thinking to myself, I might be a waiter for like 9 or 10 years and see how I go. But 30 years later, I'm still essentially a waiter in a restaurant with a few other strings to my bow. But look, I was playing a lot of rugby union when I was a young kid, and I used to work at the restaurant at the local rugby club and run by this Fijian guy who was slightly dodgy, and he naturally ran out of money pretty quick. And one of the guys I played footy with, his older sister worked at the Regent Hotel in the city, now the Four Seasons, and said that I should go and check them out. So I did. I went and had my interview and I cut my teeth in the functions department and at Cables at the Regent as a 18 plus 4 months year old man in 1991. So a long time ago.
Holy moly. How long did you stay in the hotel for? And you moved to London at some point too, right?
Yeah. So, look, I was probably at the Regent for a couple of years, 2 or 3 years. And back in those days, a lot of hospitality management schools were being launched. So I did some hotel, hospitality management training at Macleay College. And through Macleay College, I met Wendy Sawyer, who was opening up a restaurant called Level 41. She was one of my teachers, and sort of got a gig at Level 41 and Brasserie Cassis when that first opened. Sort of, I can't remember now, 92 or 93 or something like that. So, it was an amazing way to get started. Like I think with Cables as well, much like a key, Shanteh, you set up this system where this is your standard, and the Regent Hotel back in the day when it was really just the Regent and the Park Hyatt was quite new. They were the standards of sort of service professionals in that respects. You still learn that's your standard, that's where you start. So it was an amazing way to cut your teeth, really great.
I've heard a little bit about Level 41. It kind of just seems like a myth to me because nearly everyone that is of, a decent kind of hospitality professional sometimes or happen to work there at some point in their lives. What was Level 41 all about? Because I actually don't know.
It was about extravagance and sort of over-the-top opulence, and a really beautiful room, obviously looking back to the east. So it was James Bond's, originally it was his apartment, and then he got into trouble. So it was turned into a restaurant at the top of Chifley Square. And yeah, look, and also they had Bryce Ricks downstairs, so that's where I met Liam. But yeah, it was one of those places where, it was the who's who of Sydney would come into town, crazy prices, crazy wines, the Krug room back in the day. We had different rooms with different themes. There was a Krug room that we just sold Krug by the glass, and it didn't seem to matter. And yeah, it was really amazing food. Obviously, some great chefs have walked through the doors in those times, and I've still got some amazing friends who I've known for all those years that are now, like you say, like heading at the head of the game around the country. So yeah, really great.
Wow, sounds like a great restaurant. A Krug room. I mean, who doesn't want a Krug room? Holy moly!
It was crazy. It was good. It was good. Yeah.
And then you moved to London and you became the manager at a Michelin star restaurant called Lindsay House with chef Richard Corrigan. What was that time of your life like?
It was really interesting. Yeah. So just worked here for the Olympics, and then had an used a contact with Liam Tomlin to meet up with Richard Corrigan, who was on the, back in those days they had like a British Airways had a culinary council, I suppose, a bunch of chefs that would cook, on the planes or their food on the plane. So Liam was the BA version of Oz, and then Richard was over there for the UK version. He was like a 6'3", 120 kilo, foul-mouthed, amazing Irish chef that was in an old terrace building in Soho with a galley kitchen and a 28-seat private dining room on the 4th floor. So it was outrageous. Yeah. So I remember getting home at 2 a.m. and literally sort of wiping my shirt off my back. It was just so, because we're in three-piece suit, running up and down stairs. Amazing food, amazing chef, larger than life. They're really great. Wow.
That's not nice, though, when you're kind of feeling that sweaty and gross.
I think I was living in Soho. I think for the first 3 months, we met up with Richard on the Friday that we arrived, and I started working the following Thursday. It was like within the week, and then I didn't see any of Soho for 3 months. I literally worked from Monday to Saturday for the next 3 months. And I was like, I hadn't even seen any of London at all. It was ridiculous, but a lot of fun. Amazing food. Yeah.
Totally notorious kind of London. That's what I hear from so many people is like the work is just absolutely insane. But was there any moments that you can recall from your time there where not necessarily of Soho, but in the restaurant where you were like, is this happening? Because you served some pretty amazing guests and people at that time.
Yeah, look, Richard was really well connected. And yeah, Michelin star restaurant, really amazing man. And there was some really great dishes. I used to like this white asparagus with salsify and a caviar sauce. So very simple, very elegant food. And you're serving like in a beautiful old homestead, or a whole terrace, I should say, in London. So there was a lot of those moments when you're even just walking home at night, and going, I can't believe I'm actually just walking home and it's 1:30 in the morning, and I'm exhausted, but I'm in London, and this is ridiculous. It's so much fun. So, yes, a lot of passion within that room, and it was really good fun.
That's awesome. And then you worked at Nobu on the Park for a little bit as well, and then you came home, and then you started at Rockpool when it was on George Street, Neil Perry's restaurant.
Yeah, so managed to work with Neil for probably about a year or so, and it was in between the time when Neil went from the classic Rockpool to Rockpool Fish. So that was a really great experience to see how they, talk about pivoting over the last couple of years. They really pivoted that business to try and create this beautiful seafood restaurant, which it was. It was always a great room, as you would know, Shanteh, and another one of those iconic restaurants that you just, sort of lucky to be a part of for a small amount of time even. It was such a good space, and Neil's a great chef. So yeah, another really fortunate, landed on my feet coming home and yeah, just to get involved with that restaurant was really a pleasure.
And were you working in management for all of this time, or were you working as a sommelier? Where were you?
Yeah, a bit of a cross, I suppose. A bit of a cross, you know. At Rockpool, I was a somm with Nicole, but you know, I suppose I had previous management experience at in London. I was doing some wine work with the Nobu team and helping them as well. So it was always a little bit of a hobby, an interest. But I think really I learned a lot more of my wine when I was still back at Bank back in the day. You know, with Remy Martin and Philip Michel and Philip Marin, excuse me, and really understood more about wine with those guys, you know, before going to London. So that was when it sort of started, and the interest continued as I came back. Yeah, it was good.
It's very much kind of the way that the sommelier kind of world has changed, isn't it? Because before it was very much that you're a sommelier, but you were the head of management as well, and it kind of was a part of a bigger job. Whereas these days we really have seen that kind of change. Do you think?
Yeah, no, I 100%. I think when we're working with smaller restaurants, you can we don't have the capacity nor probably the talent pool, you know, back in those days to have everyone doing certain or specific jobs like that. So there was always a manager who was really good with wine, or there might be a manager who was really good at costings or something like that. So everyone had a bit of a dual workload. I was fortunate not to be on the P&L side and more on the liquid side. So it was amazing just to be able to talk to people about wine. I really love the food and wine matching experience. I love trying to sort of ask a few really simple questions to a customer about what they like about wine, what wine they like, and then think, cool, let's do this or let's do that, and give them some options, and always play it safe with maybe one of those wines. Like, yeah, I know you're going to like this, but I want to show you two that you've never tried or you wouldn't have thought of trying that will actually sit within that same parameter. So, and just see how if they trust you or not, I suppose, but also see how their reaction is once they've done that. So it's really cool.
I totally agree with you when it comes down to just asking a couple of questions, about like, what is it that you like? And the more you kind of draw people out, the more they give you, right? And then you can start being like, oh, I've got something to work with now. But is that what you think has really kept you in hospitality for so long? Is that kind of experience with people and taking them on a journey with wine? Or what keeps you still doing what you're doing, Dave?
Yeah, I've just realised I just love hospitality. I really love, like, the wine and food side of it is like a hobby in that respect. It's like you can't not like wine and food in some respects. You need to survive. But I love just the conversation with people. Obviously, there's always highs and lows through the course of these years, and you get to learn many different skill sets. I think we're psychologists. I think we're time managers. We're a lot of different things to ensure that someone who walks out the door just as happy or happier. So I think there's so many great things to like about hospitality. It's all in. You got to be all in or you're all out. I remember I always thought that probably after about 5 years you either continue for the rest or you spit out. You can't hack it. It's got a threshold where you're completely into it, or you just it's too hard. My body's getting old though, Shanteh. These hard floors are killing me at the restaurant, but no, it's all good. I'm all right.
I think after 4 months off, that's exactly what we thought. Like, was it always this hard? Did my feet always hurt this much?
I was falling asleep at 9 o'clock at night. It's like, what's going on?
Totally. You also managed Ivy's Ash Street Cellars, and that was really in its glory days. Tell me a little bit about some of the experiences at Ash Street Cellars.
Yeah, Ivy, what an amazing precinct, and that was a real honour to be a part of that opening of Ivy. So watching Justin and the team start from scratch and build this amazing venue. So Ash Street Cellar, obviously working with Franck at the time, and Frank Moreau and Frank Roberts, two legends of the game these days, and it's just great to have that whole. I suppose it came a little bit back to that London sort of stays, the laneways, the little wine bars. There's a couple of little spaces that were popping up as well down Powlings Lane, and Yeah, it's one of those experiences that you get to meet a lot of amazing people. You really get to see, the clientele is really diverse but very honourable, and you just get to have this. You grow your little black book of things that you've learned, but also people that you meet that you sort of keep forever. And some of those regulars that I had at Ash Street Cellar are now regulars at One Penny Red. So because they happen to live locally, so it's one of those experiences where you put yourself in the right position. You can don't take those relationships for granted. Really enhance those relationships that you can have some great benefit over time. So
when you talk about your little black book in terms of contacts, but I think also when you have that kind of experience, you also have like moments where you think like, I learnt really something really poignant at that time. Was there any moments like that at Ash Street Cellars where you either made a mistake or you did something right and you wanted to carry forward into your career?
I'm sure I made plenty of mistakes working for Merivale in regards to just, it's such a great lifestyle, but it does catch up to you sometimes back in those days. But what I learnt the most about Merivale is how to create a room, how to create an experience. So it's not just the food and wine, it's the music, the lighting, the whole experience. I always felt that Merivale, for me, they sold experiences. They sold experiences that you couldn't create at your own home. And I think what I learnt from them the most was, okay, is the mood right? How do we set this table? How do we create something that these guys were not expecting that makes it super simple and it's just so easy for us to do? So the detail, it's all about the details, and it's the same with any business. But it's those little details that Merivale have instilled into their business ethos that makes them the great company that they are right now. So yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think someone that's never worked for them, but I think you step into a Merivale venue and you know that everything's kind of been considered from top to bottom. And I think you're right. It is the small details. It's the paint on the wall, the lack of paint on the wall, or they do it really well. And then you open One Penny Red, so your own restaurant, which a lot of people tend to tell me is a crazy idea. But tell me about One Penny Red out at Summer Hill.
Yeah, so we're actually almost 8 years in now. So, we're 10 years into the project in total. So we took over a small, well, actually, no, it's not small. It's a large old post office. So one of Nina's old clients and regulars owned the post office and was sort of selling up his business in regards to what he was doing on site, and wanted to create this a social space, community space again in Summerhill. And I think Nina probably said no to Noel about 3 or 4 times, because the suburb just wasn't ready. I remember, driving through Summerhill at 8 o'clock at night and everything's closed down, and it was a real, we're only 5 k's from the city, but it was very much like a local suburb. And then we took the opportunity to do it, and it's really allowed us to tick those boxes or create those experiences that we've learned, for both of us and with RJ, our chef and our business partner, to create those experiences that we love about hospitality. So, you are coming into our house, you are coming into our dining room, and we've got the bar upstairs, so you are heading upstairs and having a great cocktail. So I've always wanted it to be sort of like a city, for lack of a better term, a city-like experience in the suburbs where you don't have to drive all the way into town to have some nice things, whether it be food or wine or what have you, or service. So, it's a real pleasure we've had through COVID. Without talking about it too much, the local support was crazy good, and we obviously managed to stay open with takeaway the whole time. And I think we're sort of feeling it a bit at the moment. We're all a bit tired now because it's been such a long 2 years, but we wouldn't be able to do it without our local support. So I think it's been a real challenge, but a real delight to have this amazing 50-seat restaurant, basically. So, it keeps us busy. It's good.
I bet it does. It does have that wonderful feeling of, what I love about it is that, you've got intimate spaces upstairs, but you've got that lovely restaurant floor, and you can feel the, what's the right word? The loyalty of your guests when you're in there, that people are really happy to be here, that they love what you do. I want to touch on BYO because I actually brought back BYO on a Sunday, really inspired by yourself and Stuart Knox continuing to do BYO, because there isn't a lot of BYO in the city, or in the suburbs, and if it is, it's kind of, crappy glasses and kind of pizza or something like that. So talk to me about why you think BYO is important and why you do it, because it's not particularly profitable for a restaurant.
No, it's not. Look, I think when you open up a local restaurant, you really only have, so many things that you can offer people that's slightly different, and you also need to understand that you are still a part of the community, the local restaurant. So, we're not a pizzeria. Not that we're much cheaper, much more expensive than a pizzeria, but we thought that there needs to be some community-minded experiences that we can offer our customers that allows them to do what they need to do to get involved with our business. So it's it's an opportunity to say hello without making them spend hundreds of dollars or whatever it may be. So what we thought with, and I think we actually did this at Mad Cow did it, which is one of the older restaurants from Ivy back in the day. They did it to do a BYO as well, and I really like the idea of doing a BYO and getting people to bring a nice bottle of wine in, and whatever was nice was up to them. It didn't need to be the most amazing wine, but we would then create a menu that would sort of go with the wine that they bring. So we did that from the very first month that we opened, and it was just like, just come in, we'll charge you $75 for 5 courses of food, and what we do is we have a menu of about 15 items. About half of those are just for that night, so they're not just regular menu items. They're items that are new, that RJ's seen some seafood specials or whatever it may be that comes through, and then we'll create this little sharing menu for the table. And the first night that we did it, we had some regulars who are now actually very good friends of mine. So one of the guys that came in bought a 1986 Lyre Cass, and I was like, okay, I think we may be onto something here. I'm not quite sure, but wasn't expecting that as our first. And there was a DRC that came in, and another gentleman bought a Bass Phillip Premium, and it was like we did like 20 people, and it was like, oh man, there's like, I did do a little bit of research about. Spoke to a few bottle shops if they had clients around the area that had some good sellers. Like, oh yeah, there's a couple of guys who are buying some nice wine. So okay, we'll give it a go. But yeah, now we've done it every last Tuesday of the month for the last, except for December, for the last 7 years, and we've got next Tuesday is the last month of November, and we've got 75 people booked for dinner, and it's all of those same regulars that we had 8 years ago are coming in, and they'll send us a list of the wines that they're bringing, and through the course of those 8 years, we've had some crazy wines come through. It's great. It's great fun. It's only $90 a head. We don't make any money out of it, as you say, sorry. But what an experience for all the team here at the wine team to open up. Last month it was a 2008 Comte de Champagne, or an 82 Latour, or whatever, or 88. We had some 88 Hill of Grace and 88 389. And last month it's the same table. So people are bringing some big things in and I know I'm taking a lot of time, but the big kicker is, I suppose, we put all the bottles on the bar top in the restaurant at the end of the night. We put them in a line so everyone can see what everyone else has bought in. And that's just been a bit of a tradition. And then you get everyone getting up and looking at like, oh my God, look at that. And what that has done actually is create a little bit of bottle envy. So a bit of some people are like, oh, next time we come, we need to bring some good stuff because of that, whatever they thought was good this time is not cutting it. So it's been a really interesting race to the top in regards to wine sometimes. Yeah, it's been pretty crazy.
I think that's great because it really does open up conversation about wine. And I think, like you said, it's not just about making money at the end of the day. It's about people that are passionate, and it just, you see the light in their eyes and in yours when someone has something great. And it's not like you're having a big old glass of it. You might have 5 mils to have a little look at sometimes, but even that, just the aromas from some of those wines can just be absolutely crazy. And like you said, it's an experience that you have together with the guests. So I think it's great that you're doing it. I encourage anyone that hasn't gone for a BYO at One Penny Red to do so. It's always my first recommendation. So let's touch on Lyre's and how that came about. You co-founded Lyre's, which is an incredibly successful non-alcoholic brand with some absolutely stunning marketing, I have to say. So how did all that come about? And tell us a little bit more about Lyre's.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not a co-founder, more just a creator of the liquids, but I'll take, for the licensing of this particular program, I'll take that, that's fine. So, but yeah, look, it's all, again, we talked about relationships earlier, it's about relationships, and the gentleman who actually did co-found, who was one of the founders and CEO, Mark Livings, was introduced to me through our wine club here, so through as a restaurant regular, who had some ideas and was sort of chasing some opportunities in regards to non-alcoholic spirits, and his line of business could see that there was a potential in this particular segment, of the marketplace. And at the very beginning, he asked me to look at some of the liquids, and I would sort of give my impressions of what he was doing and what we could do to improve or increase some of the textures and techniques. So, it was about a 7 or 8 month worth of work, and this probably was about 4 years ago now that I was sort of started getting involved. And I remember talking to a few mates and going, I'm looking at this non-alc spirits thing, and like myself at the same time going, I don't know whether this is going to work or not. This is a bit, it's a bit of a weird one. But we're 4 years in. We're a team I was probably about employee number 4, and there was like 90 staff around the world. We're into 55, close to 60 countries around the world. And I'm only just sort of working on a part-time sort of side of the business in regards to what my role is. And my role is to create all the liquids. So everything that's inside the bottle, I manage the flavours, the texture, the finish, whatever it may be. So it's been obviously 30 years of drinking a lot of different types of alcohol and studying those things. That has allowed me to have an insight, I suppose. But no, it's been an amazing challenge, and we're getting some great results in regards to just markets, but also, in the awards side of things, and people are really loving our liquids, which is great. I couldn't be any prouder of where we're at right now with Lyre. So it's amazing. Yeah.
And so essentially you're creating non-alcoholic spirits. So you're actually going, let's go in and let's create a gin, let's create an amaretto, let's have an Aperol. And so as your title says, flavor architect, is just about creating, how do we recreate some of those flavors using different spices and all of those elements? That's essentially what we're doing?
Yeah, so what we did at the beginning was set up the original suite of spirits that we wanted to do. We wanted the spirits to be something that people already knew, so it wasn't trying to create something then you had to work out what to do with it. So like an amaretti or the Italian spritz, which is like an Aperol, and basically sit at the bar, do a sensory evaluation of the spirits that exist, and look at those the gold standards, if you like, or benchmark spirits that are within that category. Do an evaluation of that, write down like you would when you're tasting wines, the viscosity, the burn, the flavour complexities and what have you, and then we go back to a partner within the company that supplies us with the attributes that we need, and then I start recreating it. So and it's not quite that simple. Like we're just releasing some agave spirits, so our version of a tequila. That are just coming onto the market over the next week or so, that we've probably gone through about 85 to 90 different samples of liquid to get to where we go. Yep, we're ready to bottle. So it's taken me about 12 months to work on this one liquid to get it to where I'm reasonably happy with it. Or very happy with it. Yeah.
That's amazing. I mean, I just never. Did you think that this was going to take off? That a non-alcoholic sector be so strong?
No, and 5 years ago when sort of this was, or 4 years ago when this was sort of coming to light, that we didn't have really anything non-alcoholic on the wine list at the restaurant. There was some whisperings of a few beers that mainly more in Europe. No real other spirits or anything. Certainly things like great products like Non and that they weren't around. So. No, not at all. So it was a little bit of let's just see what we can do. And then I think there was a very much a wellness program, if you like, that sort of started partly with COVID and just generally speaking, people are much more aware of what they're doing with their bodies and that's been great. So that's been good for us. And also, the whole stigma of non-drinking, Shanteh, is always like for us, we might be having a glass of wine together and there's someone not drinking. So there must be something wrong with them. They must be either pregnant or driving or just not quite right, So that was what we used to think, 15 years ago, 10 years ago. That was like, what's wrong with you? You're not drinking. So right now there's this great appreciation for those who just need to not drink or to do something else. And our society, or the whatever we got at the moment, there's just there's an appreciation for people to make up their own minds of what they'd like to do without any hesitation. And we're just offering those folks to drink the drink they want to drink whenever they like to, without it making it too confusing for them. But also, I drink it, and then the next day I might have a glass of wine, and then the next day I might not have a glass of wine. I might have a Lyre's or something else, so a heaps normal or something. So it's really just it's just allowing people to manage their own habits.
I think it's really important that we talk about these things because we are a big drinking nation, and I think these days it's important to like you said, be mindful of what you're putting in your body, but also being able to treat yourself on a day where you're out, because it's so social, isn't it? When we talk about let's catch up, it's always for something, for a coffee, for a glass of wine, for something, and so you don't want to miss out on all those social occasions just because you're deciding to look after yourself a little bit more. So I think it's really important, this non-alcoholic sector, and what you're doing is really important work. And for the future generations out there, having a healthy relationship with alcohol is really important. So good on you, mate. That's great.
Yeah, look, it's something. Thank you. It's something that we don't speak of a lot in our industry, in regards to SOMs and that as well. And I think you can have a great experience without having to drink alcohol. And I think we've sort of grew up thinking otherwise, and it's just now that we're understanding that we actually need to think about what we're putting in our bodies sometimes. And we're not a company that preaches non-alcoholism or anything like that. It's an availability, and I think that's the most important part.
I know. I mean, it's funny. We do a bit of wine judging together, and still to this day, when the news is coming around, they're asking us, "Are you drunk all day?" And it still baffles me that people say, "No, I'm not drinking the wine. I'm assessing it as a professional." Like, I think it's still amazing that people think that we just run around the floor half cut. So, what keeps you in? What's going to keep you doing this job, and what do you love about being a sommelier?
Look, the connection with our people, with One Penny Red, the connection with our local communities is really important to us, and I think it'll be something that we do for a long time to come. I think the opportunity to create new experiences like this, the Lyre's experience is a new experience, and I wouldn't have had that experience if it wasn't for my long-term association with hospitality and with wines generally. So, I think all of these opportunities do come due to hard work and persistence and, relationships and really allowing yourself to be a sponge and to learn as you go. And sometimes you make the wrong decisions, but, you have to allow yourself to do that to grow. So, look, I'll continue to do as long as I can. I am getting old, so I think even you've said one time that there's one of the old Soms of Sydney coming in the door. Be careful. So, not quite dinosaur stage yet, but I'm getting close. But look, I think there's lots of opportunities for us to keep going for a few more years yet before I hang up the wine knife, so to speak, the waiter's friend or whatever it may be. So yeah.
I definitely did not say that, by the way, but I do think that for somebody that just had such an incredible career, you always just have this relaxed, take it in your stride kind of philosophy, or that's what comes across. So I think that, for some of the young Soms, when you walk in the door, I'm like, that's Dave Murph. And everyone's like, huh? These young guys, and they're 28. And I'm like, he's a big deal. He's had so much to do with why you're standing here and why you can be a sommelier. So that was definitely what I said. I did not say that you were old.
Maybe maybe I did take it out of context a little bit.
So what, if you're only drinking 3 beverages for the rest of your life, Dave, what are they going to be and why? Well,
it's going to be in moderation, so that's what we're all about these days. So look, the Riesling and Chardonnay will always be in my cellar. I just can't not drink Riesling or Chardonnay. I just love both those two grape varieties. And yeah, they will always be there. Just classics. Look, Lyre's. I'm really enjoying the non-alcoholic sector. There's some great products out there. So we do a little Americano, whether it be alcoholic or non-alcoholic. I do love an Americano, and those ingredients will always be in the pantry. And I'm not sure. Like I really love trying new things all the time, Shanteh. We try to change the wine list here at the restaurant, by about 10% every other month. So I like seeing what's out there and looking at new things and keeping an open mind. So I'll leave my third choice for something that I haven't seen yet.
I like that. That's wonderful. Well, Dave, I hope I get to see you soon. I think next time I come into the restaurant, I'll do a BYO. I'll bring you a bottle so you can drink something, and then I'll buy something off your wonderful list. But I've loved hearing about everything today, and I hope that I get to catch up with you and Nina sometime soon. Thanks so much for joining me.
Shanteh, thanks so much, and well done on this. It's really fantastic. Thank you.
Cheers to you, mate. This is Over a Glass. I'm Shanteh Wale. Stay tuned for more stories from the world of wine and drinks. Listen in every Thursday on your podcast app. Follow us on Instagram at overaglasspod and contact us at overaglass@deepintheweeds.com.au.